It's coming from the White House. They have White House DOJ people in the trial, in the DA's office, representing the DA because he's probably not smart enough to represent himself. This guy got elected using Trump, and you're not supposed to do that. Very much like Letitia James, all of it. New York is going down as a very corrupt place to do business. That I can tell you. A lot of people are not going to be moving to New York. But there's a rigged case, and this is a case that was put in very strongly because of politics. So instead of being in Pennsylvania or Georgia or North Carolina or lots of other places today, I'm sitting in a courthouse all day long. This is going on for the week, and this will go on for another 4 or 5 weeks, and it's very unfair. And people know it's very unfair. The gag order has to come off. People are allowed to speak about me, and I have a gag order, just to show you how much more unfair it is. And the conflict has to end with the judge. The judge has a conflict, the worst I've ever seen, and it has to end with the judge. The gag order has to come off. I should be allowed to speak. Every time I come out to speak to you, I want to be open because we did absolutely nothing wrong. I showed you yesterday 32 stories of experts, legal experts, and I don't have one the other way. 32 stories of legal experts saying very strongly there's no case, this case shouldn't have been brought. Trump did nothing wrong, and they say it strongly, Trump did nothing wrong. So they ought to get rid of the conflict with the judge, because that's something that he cannot do anything about. It's wrong. It's wrong. And the second thing is I have to be released of a gag order. They've taken away my constitutional rights to speak, and that includes speaking to you. I have a lot to say to you, and I'm not allowed to say it. And I'm the only one. Everyone else can say whatever they want about me. They can say anything they want. They can continue to make up lies and everything else. They lie. They're real scum. But you know what? I'm not allowed to speak. And I want to be able to speak to the press and everybody else about it. So why am I gagged about telling the truth? I'm only telling the truth. They're not telling the truth. The judge has to take off this gag order. It's very, very unfair that my constitutional rights have been taken away. Thank you very much.
Are you going to keep posting about Michael Cohen?
Do you want to talk about Michael Cohen?
That's Donald Trump right there, headed into court today for jury selection. He made a statement before entering, complaining about the gag order that is in place over him. Not very gagged right there, I will say. He very much spoke his mind, and he, I think, was misleading people about what this gag order is. It's about some very specific things, correct?
Yeah, he says I should be allowed to speak. He is allowed to speak. There are 3 categories of speech that forbid Trump to speak about. Speaking publicly or directly about known or reasonably foreseeable witnesses in the case, that he's not allowed to speak about, specifically concerning their potential participation in the case. Another one is speaking publicly or directly about prosecutors, prosecutors other than Bragg in the case, about staff members of Bragg's office in the court, and about family members of prosecutors, staffers, or the court, and talking directly about the jurors and prospective jurors in the case. He can attack Bragg all he wants. He can defend himself all he wants. He can say that he thinks the case is unfair all he wants. He can talk about what he calls a conflicted judge, though we could fact check that, all he wants. These are the 3 categories that are part of the gag order, and he's got a lot of leeway outside of it.
Jury, witnesses, family members of people involved. And just one other quick thing. He continues to say this is a prosecution from the White House. That is not true at all. This is a New York State case, full stop.
The thing is, he's not gagged. He has been talking and talking and talking, and he's been going after the judge, going after just the prosecutor. But there is this other big issue, because there could be a stronger or a fine or something that comes forward because of something Donald Trump did say about the jury on Truth Social. Let's get to Bryn Gingras, who is outside of the court, has been following all of these details. Bryn, what can you tell us after hearing those statements, probably the longest statements we've heard actually from him in the last day or two?
Yeah, I mean, so I have to be honest with you. I didn't fully hear exactly what he was saying. I can't hear it in my ear. But essentially, I'm sure this is something that could likely be brought up when court starts up at 9:30 this morning. Remember, prosecutors have already said they believe Trump has violated the gag order 7 more times. That was after the initial time they brought it before the judge, saying that they wanted to fine Trump for 3 different social media posts, and they wanted to fine him $1,000 each for those posts. and the judge rather said that he would take that up at a hearing on Tuesday. So let's see what they bring up on Tuesday. Let's see what they bring up in court when it gets started at 9:30 this morning, anything that he did just say outside of that courtroom. Certainly the gag order is a major issue for these prosecutors. We know that at the end of court yesterday, Trump's defense team essentially said, hey, listen, we want to know the order of the witnesses that you're going to start with once this trial gets going. And the prosecution said no, because they don't believe that Trump will not go on social media and talk about these witnesses. So it's very possible that the public doesn't know, Trump's defense team doesn't know the order of these witnesses. Of course, they know the witness list, just not the order. And the judge agreed with the prosecution with this request that the prosecution essentially made. So the gag order is a major issue, but again, we'll see if it comes up when court gets started in not too long from now, 25 minutes.
Okay. Bryn, thank you so much. I think when you look at this case in particular, can you just give us a sense of where we are right now? Because we do have the 12 jurors. What is left before we believe there may be opening statements?
Yeah, so there's a couple things left. Essentially, they need to find more alternates. There is one alternate. It's unclear how much the judge wants. Initially, he said 6, but it's possible they don't need that many. But that is the objective for today, at least for this morning, is to find those alternate jurors. We know that there are 22 jurors that are going to come forward and essentially go through that 42 questionnaire as they search for these extra alternates. Now, remember, each side, the defense and the prosecution, had 10 strikes when it came to the jurors. What we're understanding is when it comes to the alternates, both sides actually have 2 strikes for each alternate, for each person they're questioning in for these positions. So it is expected to not take too long. They do think that they will wrap this up before the lunch break. And then into the afternoon, it's possible, the judge said, they'll get into what is called a Sandoval hearing. And essentially what that is figuring out exactly what of Trump's legal history can be addressed if Donald Trump takes the witness stand. We know from a previous filing the prosecution has said that they would like to get into the verdicts from his civil case, also the defamation case with E. Jean Carroll, and some other cases. So this will also be discussed possibly today, according to the judge. And then if that is all done, then possibly we will be seeing opening statements on Monday, guys.
All right, let's see what happens. First and foremost, right now, as they're heading into court, Bryn is standing by for us. Bryn, thank you so much. Let's bring in CNN legal analyst Elie Honig on this. So Donald Trump speaks. Donald Trump, as you heard, Ellie, he went off about the gag order, saying that the gag order has to be lifted. He's facing a lot of questions and is going to face a hearing about did he cross the line and how much next week. What do you think of this extra element that we've learned of prosecutors saying they don't want to say who their first witnesses could be because of what Donald Trump could do?
So, Kate, that's an example of one way where Donald Trump could actually suffer a meaningful consequence of violating the gag order, because prosecutors, as we've been discussing, they now allege that Donald Trump in his social media post has violated the gag order 10 times. And it looks like they're right in most or all of those allegations. The problem, though, is one of enforcement and discipline. All that the law allows the judge to do is either A, impose fines, but under the New York law that the DA cited, only a maximum of $1,000 per incident. That's not going to matter to Donald Trump. And then the other option is to lock him up, which I think is very unrealistic and I just don't think is realistically in play here. Now, the thing for Donald Trump, though, where he's suffering is now the DA is refusing to give over to the defense lawyers the order of witnesses. And that's a big deal, because if you're Donald Trump's team, you head into this weekend, you've seen their witness list, but there's dozens of names on that list. You need to prepare for whoever you're going to be cross-examining potentially on Monday or Tuesday. And if the DA's office is unwilling to give you the order and the judge is unwilling to make them give you the order because they don't want Trump tweeting about him, then Donald Trump is sort of leaving his own lawyers adrift. So there's a real consequence to that.
Elie Honig, thanks for jumping on, Ellie. Bryn is outside court. We're going to be following it as court's about to get underway. In just a few moments, we'll be bringing you updates throughout the morning.